Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is October 18th, 2018. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now, for this segment, I am going to talk about a very persistent weather pattern that has been dumping rain for day after day after day over central Texas, and that has now resulted in severe flooding with 10 to 15 inches of rain falling over portions of Texas, central Texas, over the past week. As a result, we've seen quite a lot of flooding with, unfortunately, the tragic loss of 2 lives, a major bridge destroyed, many roadways are impassable, and Lake Travis is now at the highest levels in 21 years, with the Colorado River in a severe flood stage. What has occurred is a trough has dipped down over the central and eastern US and collided with flows of tropical moisture from numerous sources, a persistent flow coming in through the Caribbean and tropical Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico, but also the receipt of moisture from the tropical Pacific as well in the form of a recent tropical cyclone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. This is a satellite shot of the US from October 11th, and I am going to go ahead and advance the satellite frames day to day through the 17th. We don't have the 18th yet for the the Earth NASA Worldview shot, but the present satellite shot for Texas is very similar to what it was yesterday, with a persistent, very intense storm pattern lingering over Texas. So notice this swirl, this tropical cyclone moving in to the southwestern US and northwestern Mexico, lending moisture into a trough pattern, dipping over Texas on October 12th. And by the 13th, we have persistent heavy storms over central Texas. On the 14th, a very intense bank of clouds over all of the central US, in particular central Texas. On the 15th, the trough dips down and taps Gulf moisture as well as Pacific Ocean moisture to continue to rain over central Texas, with the 16th showing very intense cloud coverage with storms raining out over central Texas again. And by the 17th, a similar picture as well as for today. So a very, very persistent weather pattern, one that we have a type of pattern that we have tended to see in numerous regions of the world, which has a number of fingerprints of human-caused climate change on it. One, due to added atmospheric moisture loading as the Earth warms, but also fed by warming ocean surfaces, which are evaporating more water into the atmosphere in certain regions of the world. And when these flows of moisture encounter the deep troughs that in some instances, in a number of instances, have been linked to Arctic warming, the heavy persistent rainfall has tended to push new records, resulting in extreme events. And this is certainly an extreme event, 10 to 15-inch rainfall totals over the past week over parts of Texas. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the recordings for the rainfall from the National Weather Service, showing a large swath of 6-inch to 10-inch or higher rainfall amounts over central Texas, with hot spots ranging between 10 and 15 inches. And notably in this precipitation analysis, a thin band of in excess of 15 inches of rainfall over parts of Texas to the south of the Dallas region. So very, very heavy rainfall over Texas over the past week in association with a atmospheric moisture, river of atmospheric moisture encountering a deep trough over parts of Texas. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the present conditions as indicated by Earth Null School and the GFS model. Note that we have a strong high pressure system over the Ohio River Valley, which is helping to draw in moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and from the Caribbean as part of a synoptic east to west flow moving into Texas. Looking at atmospheric water vapor levels in the form of total precipitable moisture, see a big plume of moisture over south and eastern Texas, and this has been a persistent feature which is expected to continue to persist, interacting with a trough, which you can see dipping down over the southern United States and running in through the Atlantic and trailing in through Texas. This interaction is continuing to develop storms, as we can see in the cloud cover, with dense clouds continuing through central Texas and strong 3-hour rainfall potentials even at the current hour, and predicted intensification of this rainfall pattern in bursts as time moves forward, particularly over central Texas and regions that have already received heavy rainfall. Looking at temperature, I'd just like to point out the trough pattern again, where you see this dividing line between very warm, moist air and cooler, drier air to the north, which is also expected to persist, lending intensity and strength to the storms that do develop over a stalled weather system over Texas, which is dumping heavy rainfall day after day, and over the next few days is expected to dump anywhere from 1 to 6 inches over central Texas by Saturday, according to recent forecasts, adding to the already significant rainfall totals that we have seen. Looking at the NOAA QPF monitor, it's worth noting that QPF is indicating more heavy precipitation over the coming 5 to 7 days, with a large plume of moisture emerging from the Gulf of Mexico. This moisture has been feeding into this pattern, and it is worth noting that some of the QPF models have tended to undershoot the amounts of rainfall that we have seen in isolated parts of Texas. Sometimes the granularity of the QPF model is not as high as what actually occurs, and in addition, due to the added atmospheric moisture loading provided by human-caused climate change, as well as the increasingly persistent weather patterns that we have tended to see as the Earth has warmed in the northern hemisphere, and related potentially to polar amplification, we are likely, or we can possibly see some rainfall totals that exceed the predicted levels. But already the 10 to 15 inches or more of rainfall over parts of Texas is breaking records and setting off flood alerts in a number of locations. I'd just like to call your attention to the Colorado River levels at Lake Travis as provided through observations by the U.S. Geological Survey and posted here by the Weather Channel's Twitter feed. It's worth noting that Lake Travis is already past major flood stage at 82 feet and is expected to rise another 5 to 10 feet by Friday to its highest level in 21 years. And if the Colorado River continues to receive this persistent rainfall, these high flood levels will stick around for a long period of time. And it's worth noting that at least over the next 5 days, we expect this pattern to persist. We got about 50 seconds left, so what I'm going to do is just look at the cloud cover as predicted by the GFS model, and note that the cloud cover is expected to remain over Texas for the coming 4 days at least. Thank you for joining me. I will be chatting with you soon, but before I go, I'd just like to note that warm ocean temperatures and extreme atmospheric moisture loading are signatures of human-caused climate change, and they are amplifying extreme rainfall events like what we are seeing now in Texas, not just in this particular instance, but across the globe. And it's part of what many are calling a new normal, which is really not normal at all. Thank you for joining me.